Grown black folks talk. PD pastors and serial adulterating presidents, former presidents, and the real religion of Project 2025. Now I got knocked off the line just trying to actually record this. We did about a minute, and Zoom was like, "No, we can't help you with that, ma'am. Watch me track in." Since on page 4, black women are tagged for everything that goes wrong in society, put a pin there. Put a pin on the fact that Donald Trump has a spiritual advisor, presumably a Christian minister, though he is not. He is of the synagogue of Satan, I'll prove it, who is a pedophile, admitted. This is not a legend. He admitted it, 12 to 16, and that's why he had to step down. He admitted it. We're not defaming him. He said it. Let me explain something to y'all, because I really paid attention when I had to study Greek and Roman mythology, and they're the same thing. As it was said a long time ago, militarily, Rome conquered Greece, but culturally, Greece conquered Rome. So let's go back. When we talk about rape culture, the Greek gods were the biggest rapists in town. They always had to have eternally young women around them who were dryads and spirits of the waters and the oceans, and dryads and naiads and all the rest they could choose from anytime they wanted, even though when they were married. Because in Greek culture, you married to have legitimate children. And one of their historians, Ovid, I think it was, wrote this down. You marry for legitimate children, you have boys for sexual pleasure. The word is pederasty for that specifically. Pedophilia for love of children in general, in this sense. Put a pin there. The Greek and Roman societies deified men and enthroned men and made them into gods who lived like that. So they worshiped themselves at their most depraved. And they worshiped women who went along with it and got married to it and had legitimate and had the wealth and allowed those women to take out on everyone else below them their frustration with their perverted husbands who they knew did not love them. Anybody pay attention to how white men and women behaved in slavery, because slave mistresses were some of the cruelest people to black women who had no choice but were forced to have sex with their masters, and how white women would take out after the woman and the children and would kill them both if she could? That's Greco-Romanism. But why do we call it Christianity? Because a Roman emperor made a bargain with whoever it was that was counterfeiting that day on high and said, well, at least as high as the first heaven, and said, if I win this battle, I'll become a Christian. Well, somebody answered him. He did. But what he came up with was rolling what little he knew of Christianity into Greco-Roman religion, combined with his mother helping him put together bad lip readings of the patriarchs of the Old Testament at their most perverted. Sometimes sit down and read the book of Genesis, from Adam throwing Eve under the bus all the way along, and see how this works out. Um, Auntie Love from Noir Aunties reminded me of this today. And also, we've been going through this with a youth Bible study. We're just reading the book of Genesis and dealing with what's there. Bad lip readings of the Old Testament with no context and no discussion of the consequences these men gave themselves, created for nations still in existence today. No concept of that. So, they rolled all this foolery in. They found the worst patriarchy in the Old Testament. They took the worst patriarchy of the Greco-Roman world and rolled it up together. And the difference was, and it's still practiced by the Catholic Church today, the Romans set it up so they could make Christ the victim and sacrifice him over and over and over and over again. When you go to a mass, the Catholic doctrine to this day is that Jesus becomes part of the wafer. So he gets killed again and again and again every day, so that every day people can leave that church and go do whatever sin they want, because Jesus is going to die for them over again tomorrow. And they're going to eat his flesh and drink his blood, be exalted, and go back out. That is what Greco-Roman religion looks like. That's Greco-Roman religion. You still worshiping Zeus and Jupiter. You killing Jesus every day to do it. This is how you can have these people with Project 2025 talking about God and the family. If you look at the structure of the Greek and the Roman gods, yes, the Greek gods were the inventors of rape culture, and so were the men who deified and enthroned themselves to be represented in that way. But their wives, and you go ahead and study your Greek and Roman history, were left to be in charge of the hearth, Vesta or Hestia in Greek, and art and culture. Athena, Minerva, and they also tended to be the actual guardians of nature. Um, uh, uh, Artemis, or what is her name in Roman? Because Minerva and Athena are the same, and Artemis and I cannot Diana, fertility and nature. So women's domain was to take care of the muses, music, and the graces, dancing, all the arts. Because the men were out there. Let me tell you how petty the Greek gods were. The story of Prometheus. They did not want mankind to even have fire to be able to cook their own food because, and how it's explained is that Zeus explains to Prometheus, if you do that, they'll live too much like gods and we have to maintain distance between us and them. But at the same time, Zeus runs a system where my man by heroic deeds may be added to the godhead. So the contradiction for me is like, oh, I'm out. I'm gonna give him fire. We done with all this. And of course, suffers a terrible punishment. But I'm just telling you, this is what the Greeks and the Romans believe should be done to their own poor. So when we go back to Donald Trump and this pedophile minister that he has, I don't know if it's for certain, but we also have how Trump himself is hugged up on Ivanka in past pictures. This is what they're willing to do to their own daughters before they ever get to yours. Because the Greco-Roman world, everybody not one of them, and even poor Greeks and Romans are, you're at least a Greek and a Roman. But the thing about it is, everybody else is a barbarian. That's not a reference to color either, because you have to understand Greeks and Romans covered Europe too. They conquered everybody but the Norse and some of the Scots and some of the northern Bretons they couldn't get. Everybody else, they considered their fellow Europeans, further. The Romans considered their fellow Italian tribes of the time barbarians, to say nothing of how they considered Africa. But see, the story that white people still don't want you to know is that the one person who was not going to have it was Queen Amani Renas of Kush, Ethiopia. She wasn't going to have that. And she literally took Augustus Caesar's head off the image that was forced to be put up at her husband's time, put it under her stairs, and walked on it after she beat that man out of her territory. Even back then, it was a black woman who basically said, "Oh no, you're not coming, Hadrian. You, who? The Scots are gonna beat you 300 years from now. Right now, you ain't coming up in here with the foolery." And this is why on page 4, the people in Project 25, 2025, and the demons behind the Greek gods they worship have pointed out black women who are not under the control of black or white men as the problem. Because they know their demons have told them about Queen Amani Renas. They also know about how Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells, Mary McLeod Bethune, Fannie Lou Hamer, Stagecoach Mary, and 1,000 others. They know who can stop them. Let me also tell you a side light on this. I don't have time to get into it. I have alluded to this story earlier, but I just didn't put anybody's name in it. Right now, there is a very popular celebrity, and I'm still not going to waste time to put his name in it, who is putting out his theories about science and whining because serious-minded black men in his field are not willing to pay attention and validate him. I talked about that, the dark side of being fathers and sons. But as he attached himself to history, the previous generation, at least the Hotep hustler, attempted to acknowledge his Africanity and connect to the religion and science of Africa. No, this brother's going to apply himself to Pythagoras. He's trying to attach himself to a white person who is considered pretty much deified and holy today. You still have to learn the Pythagorean theorem in school. Pythagoras was not the first person nor the only person to note how triangles worked and the math behind them. Al-Jabbar was an Arab, 2/3 African through his African mother Hagar, and he gave the name to algebra. This formula had been observed elsewhere, but the formula is sound. I'm not mad at Pythagoras. He's not at the fault for this particular situation. But the point is, this black man also believes in the superiority of Greco-Roman religion. These black men of that type also deify white women and hold them up on a pedestal. And what they want to do is get into position where they can do what the Greek gods used to do, have access to all the women, use them as they will, and break off some benefits to the women of their choice. When you listen to Kevin Samuels talking about the high value man, that's a great value version of a Greek god he's describing. He has his pantheon to do stuff with. He has more resources than people around him. That's basically what that's about. And when you get there, you get to have options. That's basically talking about the pantheon. This is why you have Black men going along with Project 2025. But they need to pay attention to how this Black man with his new theories is being called straight delusional. White men are going out of their way. And remember, that particular Black man with his podcast had 15 minutes and 35 pages of receipts. So no, you're not getting up there. But if you don't understand how prevalent this is, there are just two things I need you to understand. If on your own time, find out who the Boule is. I'll break down for you a little bit more. Find out who the Divine Nine are and who their patron spirits are. You will find out that there are Black people who are in prominent organizations who are still in the process of calling Greek gods and goddesses their patrons, meaning that you have Greek people going to different churches who are in these sororities, and they may be calling Jesus' name just like you do, but if you track their behavior, what you find out is who they're talking about is Zeus. And they will kill Christ and Christ's women, the Black daughters of the Most High God, every day, make them the victim every day of the week. Because, see, in the Protestant world, we do not specifically pretend that we can make Jesus Christ come into the bread and the wine every single day. What we do in the Protestant world is take the most devoted Christians and make them the victim every day. And in the United States of America, that just happens to be who did Project 25 put on the fourth page as the enemy? That would be Black women. The religion of Project 2025 is represented by the pedophile pastor and his serial adulterating candidate that Project 2025 wants to see enthroned and deified. Please govern yourself accordingly in November. Now, I want you to also understand this, and it's worth a separate video. No matter what happens in November, both white men and Black men will do what Adam did, who were involved in this, not all, but the ones who are convinced of this religion. If they get stopped by the God, largely in Black women voting for Democrats, because we are the most. Oh, by the way, Republicans want to talk about, well, you support baby killers and you support sexual perverts. Well, look at it this way: your minister is a pedophile. Your God is your MAGA God is a serial adulterer. So you won't need to shut it, thou up it from here on out. I defy anybody to come do that now. I'm so glad these people are imploding in June. I am. I delight. Because I also see the people that back Project 25 in the favorable contest, ain't none of them come out to condemn this. So I already know, yeah, this is what y'all on. And in November, I want to remember. And see, I need y'all to remember, not when you vote for president only. I need you to, when you vote for Senate, when you vote for Congress, when you vote for governors, when you vote for your state legislature, when you vote for your state senate, when you vote for your mayor, I need you to understand, do you want the worshipers of Zeus who want to slaughter Christ and his followers every single day to absolve them for their sins? I need you to ask yourself, do I want that kind of person in power? I'm not saying the Democrats are much better, but here's the difference. In Louisiana, you have the Ten Commandments on the wall. And they ought to be glad Zeus doesn't exist, because the lightning would be coming for this one. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. It's okay. Just, Zeus doesn't care if you run weight culture. He ran it for the Greeks, Jupiter for the Romans. That's cool. That is in line with that. Many Democrats are atheists or secular humanists. They do not claim to know God. They will not even claim that God exists. I live in a state that is 1/4 secular humanist. So since they don't claim Jesus, they are not obligated. Caveats and nuances. That obligation will catch up. But see, You're not held responsible the same way as you do when you try to go and claim Christ and do the foolery. See, you're gonna get punished extra special. So if we let these people take over the United States, you do know we gone, right? We already leaving, but we gone. Like, they ought to be thankful it's not Zeus, because everybody in Louisiana has up on the wall, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for he will not hold him. The Lord knows who running the foolery. Him guiltless who takes the name of the Lord his God in vain. You do not get to get away. And you put Christ's name on your pedophilia and your pederasty. The Greeks used to sell their pedos to old men Erastus for a come up. And sometimes they're girls too. So it became pedophilia. I thank Damon Richardson for breaking this down and explaining why black men go for the foolery too, because they're trying to get to the same thing. So when you go do your politics between now and November, ask yourself what it is you want, but also understand when this fails, because it inevitably will. Both black men and white men, when it fails, are going to do what Adam did. This is why, and I'll do a separate follow-up video. This is why black women, be very careful about the connections with men that you have and that you make in the next 6 months. And if you can avoid doing that, till you would put people through a very deep vetting process, please do so. And don't bring your children around any of them of any color. Why? Because pedophilia and pederasty is what you get when people are in Greco-Roman religion wearing Christ's name. That's why you're not safe in church. That's why you're not safe in school. That's why you're not safe in your relationships. Because what really is going on is that Satan, who wants to be worshipped and use everybody as chattel and care for no one, is working through all these people. Call him Zeus if you want to, but you look at the rape culture, you look at the behavior, that's satanic. So let's take it where it is. Because these same white people want to sit up and talk about black people's religion being satanic. The Bible also says, Jesus said, take the plank out of your own eye before you try to pull the speck out your brother's. So I'm gonna need these white evangelicals to stand up and condemn both the serial adulterating wannabe again president and this little pedophile spiritual advisor. I'm gonna need them to get up and deal with their problems and stop bothering us for right now. Because till you can deal with your own problems, that's what's called being a hypocrite. And I am an African American virgin woman of 43, living a pure and holy life per 1 Corinthians 7, who does not have this particular plank to pull out, call everybody out. I live in a city where we're going to have a pride parade. But see, like I said, people who do not claim Jesus Christ don't act like they claim Jesus Christ. My problem is with the loudest people who claim Jesus Christ out here acting like Greek rape culture. And if you look at every European dictatorship anywhere in the world, colonialism, slavery, the eradication of indigenous people everywhere, you see exactly the same behavior. As Auntie Love says, it's a repeat of a repeat of a repeat. This is just the 21st century ignorant American version of the same foolishness, the same Satanism. So as you do your politics, and people keep talking to you about, well, Joe Biden ain't done that. Joe Biden is not a wonderful person. He's a segregationist. He is the last of the great segregationist whelps under Dixiecrats. He's not a great person. But Project 2025 is not behind him. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but when you do your politics, when you look at your president, the Senate, the House, your state figures, your city figures, what you really need to do is get up somewhere and ask what's your position on Project 2025 and then watch what happens. If you can get up close enough. Color makes no difference. Ethnicity makes no difference. Because there's plenty of people of plenty of colors bidding for that Greco-Roman top spot as a man. Patriarchy. We have all this from Auntie Love explaining it over and over again. I've just kind of broken it down a little further. The enthronement and deification of mortal, sinful men and the women who go along with the foolery. Because they get to take out their petty, vindictive ways on everybody below them. In passing, I have known two women who have tried to tell me that they identified as white women. When they say things like that, understand they don't identify with the relatively few white women who relatively few that seriously invested themselves in the freedom of human beings everywhere. There are some, but relatively few. No, they identify with slave mistresses. And if you watch their behavior, you see it. Now, I haven't put any names on that. I could, but I'm not going to because it is not my business. There are enough people trying to break black women down. I observe a simple rule. When you cross the line and you start attacking children, yeah, I'm going to have to put you out there. But in terms of personal things that have happened to me, no, my prayer for everybody, please get saved for real. Because like I said, if you don't believe it, just watch. White evangelicals thought they could have rolled this up in 2020. Actually, God sent a plague and got their butts up out of office. For those of you that pray hard. Maybe you're gonna want to get that copy of Project 2025 and have a look at what Greco-Roman religion, wearing the name of Christ, means for you and your family. Maybe you want to do that. Maybe you want to remember that this playbook is now the Republican playbook, and it does not matter who the candidate's name is. Maybe you want to remember that the Nazis made their first bid in 1924 and they failed, and they tried again in 1928 and they failed, but they got Hitler in office in the election of 1932. So not only are we going to have to be vigilant today, we're going to have to stay vigilant. And those of you who are just like, I need options, but you're going to need to start listening to black women who are giving you real options. You're going to have to stop kikiing and laughing about all this stuff over here because you're not learning anything that's going to help you, because we may not be able to hold this off forever. What you can never comprehend among men in particular is how badly mortal men want to be God and how they will make alliances that make no sense. White men are not moving over, even prophetically. White men are not moving over. Everybody else had their turn historically. The black man has had his chance to build his empire. All the colors of men have had a chance to build their empire. Europeans actually the last. He's not going to be moved over till Jesus comes. I'm just telling you right now. That's not going to happen. But where he has been successfully resisted, black women have often done that, which is why we're the problem. And when this fails, that's why we're who they're going to come after. Understand the history. If Caesar Augustus and Tiberius, let's see, Augustus, Tiberius, Claudius, well, by the time Claudius came along, because they pretty much had covered it up, Nero had other foolery he was doing. But if Augustus, who lived to be 72, which was ridiculously old by that time, could have changed that, he would have. If he could have gotten revenge, if he could have instructed Tiberius to get revenge and it could have worked, he would have. Claudius had stuff to do, but he was a historian and he knew better. He was also disabled. He had his own problem trying to survive the Roman world. Suetonius, the 12 Caesars, would tell you an awful lot about what men are trying to be under a Greco-Roman dominated educational system. Influenced by Germans, carried away with the same thing in the 1870s. Otto von Bismarck created the model of public school that everybody is using today. It's designed to produce good workers, good soldiers, strong industry, and people who do not use their critical thinking and ask questions. In his pursuit to build a Holy Roman Empire in a German sense, Charlemagne, year 800, King of the Franks, way back when, and to put that back together again in Germany. And that is how they ended up 75 years later with Germany in ruins, 1871 to 1945. The United States is playing with that kind of fire because you're only going to get so far taking Christ's name in vain. Just understand, when you see these PD pastors and these serial adulterating presidents, That's the stakes the United States is playing with. Please govern yourself politically accordingly. I'm an independent. I don't deal with nobody. But I do know I'm going to be voting against Project 2025, whatever exists on the ballot in November. Y'all have a good day now. Keep in mind what I said. Don't be afraid. We kept this foolery out of office in 2020. We have the numbers to keep it out in 2024. We are 68% of the electorate. The other 32% is very loud. But see, they're going to be given more incidents like this. Bannon is going to be hauled off to prison in a little bit. There's going to be more of this. Sooner or later, Donald Trump's going to have to come out and do a debate, and we're going to find out how his mind is or is not working. There's going to be more of this. Grandpa Joe is just sitting back there, every shut eye and sleep, and just letting it happen. There's going to be more humiliations. And for all we know, by November, neither of these men may be running. The Lord may take both of them away. But what you want to do is use this time to wake up. Because while we are going about our daily things and doing what we need to do, this is what's on the table for our whole nation. To say nothing of Black women and children. Everybody, unless Black women do what they need to do, everybody's going. Us too, but everybody. And I don't mean to say by that Black women and children are not important. I'm saying the stakes are getting to be so big that everybody's going to go on the ballots. That's the kind of situation we're in right now. So think of yourself and your children first, and also understand, well, I don't want that much responsibility. Too bad. You're living in this time in history. It's just like we hold every German who did not stand up against the Nazis accountable. It's our turn to be accountable. It is what it is. Govern yourself accordingly. Have a good day anyway. Goodbye.